this meeting to order. Stand for the flag salute. Tom, would you lead us tonight, please, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. Tammy, will you take us through a roll call, please?
Yes, those present are Mayor Shaw, Council Members Baker, Johnson, Armbruster, Kemp, and McVeigh, staff present, and myself, Clerk Treasurer, City Attorney, Public Works Supervisor, our City Planner, and Lieutenant Simper.
Thank you. Council, I look for approval of agenda, please.
Move to approve the agenda.
Would you give the second?
I'm going to give the second to Tom.
Okay, that's what I had too. There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, Council. Now look for approval of consent agenda, please.
Move to approve the consent agenda to include July 25, 2023 claim vouchers 7819 through 7828 and 5 EFTs in the amount of $18,158.18, which were certified and approved July 26th. July 11, 2023 meeting minutes, August 8, 2023 claim vouchers 7836 through 7846, one EFT in the amount of $63,000.45, and the July payroll in the amount of $32,234.63. Vouchers have been audited and verified by the audit committee. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much, Council. We'll now move into the public comment. Anybody in the public that's not already on our agenda? Okay. We'll now go into our presentation regarding care packages. So Kane's care packages, and we want to have a car show to support that. So you're up.
Hi everybody, my name is Darcy. I am Kane's mom. Here is some flyers for you guys to look at, like kind of explain to you what we have going on. Every year for the last 7 years, our son, who is now 17, raises money throughout the year and sends care packages overseas to our deployed troops. This started in 2017 after my little brother, who is 31, went to sleep and never woke up. He was our 10-year-old son at the time, was his best friend, and trying to explain to a 10-year-old that their uncle's never coming back is something that we didn't know how to do. So besides trying to deal with our emotions of losing our little brother, so we reached out to a friend of ours who was in the military. His best friend was stationed overseas in Afghanistan. He started riding him back and forth, and during that time, Kane learned about the military. One thing he learned and didn't understand was when our military is shipped overseas, they don't get to come home for the holidays. And that absolutely broke his heart. When he was talking to Chad, and Chad told him that, he said, "Mom, what can we do to help? What can we do to brighten our holidays?" So the first year we threw together 40 care packages in 2 weeks. And it's just been growing every year since. During this time, he has more uncles and aunts than he can possibly imagine because he's met through the care packages. We get a lot of soldiers and airmen that don't get any mail at all. So sometimes the packages that we send throughout the year are the only packages they get. So what we would like to do is rent the park to do an all-vehicle show to help us raise money for this year's care packages.
Just to be clear,
Anything else?
she's not asking for anything to be waived or anything. She's already paid the fee. She's basically just, because it's kind of its first year, the other car shows kind of came here and presented their plan, and you guys said it was okay, so I suggested that for Darcy. So She basically is just letting you know what her plan is and asking for your blessing to hold her car show at our park.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Okay.
Are you planning on doing like food booths or?
We are. We have a face painter that's coming for the kids because we're really trying to get the kids involved because usually the parents drag them along to stuff like this and they're bored. We have a bounce house. We have a face painter. We have a snow cone lady, and we're trying to get a food truck. We're having trouble finding anybody that's available that weekend. We do have a lot of stuff that's been donated for the raffle auction. Dale Earnhardt Jr. from NASCAR has sent a box of items that are autographed. Bill Elliott has sent autographed items. We have Klein Automotive Brothers who have sent a train horn for a truck. We have 2 beef jerky companies, so we have 600 bags of jerkies to go overseas to our troops so far this year. So it's growing and getting better.
Cool. Any other questions?
I might be able to help her out with the food event themselves.
Okay.
You can get me know if you can, and I can do it later.
Okay. I think I have it at home.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can probably do it.
Okay.
Yeah, just call me and I'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Very detailed, very well put together
Thank
for
you.
some of the things that we get brought to the council. Paragraph, and you did a very good job of just summarizing it and getting through your time. You did a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any objection if we let the St. Martin's plan go before staff reports? So if they want to get out of here, they can?
Yeah, that's fine.
I know we should have amended the agenda beforehand, but I didn't catch that until just now, but if we can do that. So we'll let you go so you can make your presentation and then you don't have to wait around if you don't want to. So we got the St. Martin's planning on a stage for Wachowski. You guys can stand up, you can sit down. We're really laid back here, so whatever
Thank
makes you guys more comfortable.
Sit on the floor, John.
You'll get minus points for doing this.
So I'm David Stride. This is Max Johnson. We met with Mr. Johnson here and his wonderful wife Linda. Was that early June?
Yes, I think so.
I hope that you guys had a chance to look over this report. It is a 10%, so it's not incredibly detailed at this stage, but it will give a lot of bearing to what we're trying to propose for the community here. And for this student capstone project, we are currently students at St. Martin's in the Bachelor's of Science Civil Engineering. Both Max and I, our advisor is Dr. Florisa Bornzal. She is project managing in pseudo sense, keeping us right on the rails, if you will. But me and Max are just a two-man team for this, which is a little bit more reasonable for a project where if we do a covered stage with lighting, safety lighting, and power, we would be looking at that footprint mainly. If it includes the ADA requirements for a sidewalk, stairs or ramps, right? That's what we're talking about here. We're not necessarily talking about if we trench out to a transformer on the road or any kind of road amendments going in on that. But yeah.
All right, I'll get us started with some of the project details. So kind of going over our project milestones, which will be our major things coming up our next semester and what we're doing right now. So we're going to be doing our 10% report and presentation, which is where we're at right now. During our fall midterm around middle of October is when we'll do our 30% report and presentation, and then finishing up in the winter at the end of our fall semester in December will be when we get to our 60% report and presentation. Dale was mentioning that we're kind of a smaller team. Typically, you get 100% at the end of our second semester, but since we're a smaller team, we're probably only going to reach that 60% milestone at the end. So for our 10% project update, at this point in time, the things that we've completed, we've done our kickoff meeting, which we did back in June with Councilmember Johnson. We've investigated the existing site conditions, so we've gone out and looked at the park, and we know what's out there and trying to figure out the best place to have that stage location. We've looked at a couple different alternatives and kind of analyzed what would be best, whether we want to go with kind of a simple outdoor stage design or if we want to kind of make something a little bit more complex and make it really aesthetically pleasing for the community. We've done some design criteria and looked at some state, city, and county regulations for some of the designs that we're going to be working on for this outdoor stage. We've looked at some relevant permitting, which we won't be reaching, and we'll talk a little bit more about in a little bit. And we've gone over our project management plan, and right here we're doing our 10% reporting plan set. And then coming up, so all those completed tasks are kind of what builds up this 10%. Once we're done with this and we hit our next semester, the only thing that'll be forward is reaching that 30% report and presentation to. Anything? And then I'll go over our basic project scope. So our basic scope is that we're tasked to design an outdoor stage for Wachowski Park. Some of the features are going to be a covered stage. I think proposed was 16 feet by 24 feet. We were asked to design an ADA compliant sidewalk that reaches the stage, and then lighting and some sort of power access points.
Yeah. And so, again, the background, this was brought to our table by Councilman Johnson with the justification that the community already holds some big events like the Bluegrass Festival, and also there may be a present need for outdoor events like local churches or groups, Boy Scouts, any other small groups that may really benefit from having a covered stage and also have that access to power. And the reason why we shifted from having power to access to power is the simple obvious that a secure box, weatherproof box, is under command and control of the city, right? And so that lowers your risk mitigation factors, but it also gives you the ability to distribute that power as it's fitting. Looking at the site, originally it was right in the middle of the park, in Molosky Park, and there's a lot of old trees. There's also houses that border the park. Our proposed location and orientation puts it more on the county lease side, more of a centered piece to catch your eye as you pull up that road where that parking is. Somewhere in that general range, it's a little bit more flat, and also we think that it would benefit from the presentation of performance or whoever's using the stage. They have an open area to be able to see it clearly for a good distance, a good sight distance. Sound, if it's being projected, would be towards the main drag and also towards the commercial area. So there's an opportunity to reduce nuisance from bands playing if the neighbors, are right there by the corner. If we can redirect that with some small walls, that would help lower the nuisance factor. On permitting, we are not actually executing this work. We're just designing it and proposing it for the council and the city to take off with if you guys so desire. And so the permitting at 10%, what we identified, we listed, and then it would fall into your category if you consult or you hire a AE firm that will execute the construction, then you would be directing that. through permitting. These prices, again, are at a 10% level, where they're just shots out there with timeframes to make you aware that permitting would exist, and that you would need to do that before wanting to break ground.
So like I said, we did our existing site conditions, and if you look at that second plan sheet, you can see there's no Google Earth picture, but you can kind of see where the stage would likely be located and a sidewalk that would connect to that little access road. The stage is to scale with the rest of it, so if you look at some of those black lines on the side, you can kind of see where you guys have that covered picnic area, and you can see that the stage is a little bit smaller and where it's going to be kind of relative to that location and where the bathrooms are at. Additionally, looking at our alternatives analysis, our first alternative was just pretty much looking at something like a basic slab on grade stage that's just on the ground, not raised or anything. Some sort of simple column design, a simple roof design, and just that ADA compliant sidewalk just to meet our project scope and what we're being asked to do. Some of the pros for that is that it will be very cost effective, so it won't be costing nearly as much money. And there's also potential for kind of expanding a basic design. I mean, if you just have a basic design, you can choose to add maybe walls later. The only negative is that once you have that design, you're not going to really be able to raise it if you want to raise stage at some point or anything like that. And you can obviously change kind of the roof design and add some different types of aesthetically pleasing features. Whereas another alternative that we were considering is kind of a raised stage with steps maybe around the front so people can walk up and down, and some sort of ADA compliant ramp to meet those requirements. And then we'd probably try to have some sort of nice looking column design instead of just having those columns just be, wood sticking out of the ground, because those aren't very fun to look at sometimes. Additionally, like I said, we'd have that ramp, and we'd probably have some sort of walls, which would be helpful, as David mentioned earlier, of kind of redirecting sound. It's pretty close to houses in this area, and if you have some sort of like music going on late at night especially, we don't want to be disturbing the community. The pros for that is that it really promotes that spot as a venue. I mean, people are going to want to kind of use that area for different things. The cons is that it might be a little bit more costly than going with something more simple. Then our design criteria, like I mentioned earlier, of things that we've done, we've looked at sort of kind of the materials and what kind of design and what requirements that we're going to have to meet. Some of those include obviously the concrete stage, steel columns is something that we were considering, a metal roofing system, safety lighting, which is something that we want to do no matter what. Same with some sort of power distribution box. We have to look at that kind of stuff. And if we want to do walls or not, we're going to have to look at some sort of design for that too. And then same with the concrete ramp. If we want to have that raised stage, we're going to have to make sure that we meet those ADA requirements. Looking at our cost estimate, it's a 10% design, so we haven't really done any actual designing really at this stage. All we've done is that you can look at that third slide where I kind of compared those alternatives, or the third plan sheet, and it's just a picture of what a basic design might look like and what a more complex design might look, and some of those notes of what's in each of those designs. You can look over that. But for our cost estimate, we kind of lean towards estimating what a simple design might be, since we haven't, like I said, we haven't really chosen materials or anything yet, so it's really tough to be completely accurate. But you can look at our cost estimate. I believe it's right before our plan sheets. If you want to turn to that page.
We'll have the orange
Yes, it'll have
spreadsheet.
the orange spreadsheet. Page 12. Thank you. So for the most part, that cost estimate just includes some of the basic stuff like clearing and grubbing. I think we went a little overboard maybe on the clearing and grubbing because at this point we haven't completely reached what we're going to do for sure for size-wise. We have some different numbers out there for what a concrete stage will look like. Additionally, same with the concrete paths. And then we also have in there some reinforcing bar. I just kind of threw in a number for that too because it's hard to be too accurate. And we have some sort of base course material for what the stage will be on top of. And then you can see under there's other numbers for pre-design and design and contingency, mobilization, and other numbers. Those are all percentages. We kind of went middle of the pack of what those percentages might actually look like. And you can see as of right now, we're not at too high of a number for just that. And this doesn't include our roofing either. So this is just the stage and our ADA sidewalk. But you can see that we're not at too high of a number at this point with just those factors. And wrap us back to the summary, which David will do for us.
Yeah, so looking at those two different idealized stages, cover stages, those are just aids to help you guys lean us into a direction of where you would like us to go for a more finite design. Ultimately, you're our clients in this project, and we want to provide the best product that will most likely provide a benefit to you to making it happen and bettering the community. So there are a couple things that we do need a response on to move from 10% to 30%. We would like you to tell us if you want a elevated stage or if you would like it flat on ground, if you are okay with it being made out of concrete. The materials for columns and roof structures, if you are okay with it being metal, we can continue down that path. If you would like a different material, aluminum, wood, concrete, let us know. We can adjust. And how the roof would appear will affect the roof structure system. So if you want it as a gable, if you want it to match your covered picnic area, we can lean in that direction. One thing I would suggest that you talk about is if a 16 by 24 is adequate, because in place, even elevated, it may look small compared to the covered picnic area. And there is space right there. Looking at it a little bit deeper, we feel that there is an opportunity that you could go bigger and we could still find creative ways to keep costs down by maybe prefabricated design like a 30 by 20 and then phase in the construction. So you could wrap those steel I-beam columns with either concrete, masonry, something thematic, and then put in partition walls later. They're architectural. So you could do this in a phased design to save cost or even justify the cost by the venue being successful. Do you guys have any questions from us at this 10% stage or anything that didn't seem clear or was confusing on our report up to this point?
What's the height of the stage with the steps? What's the height for it?
We would like to keep it around 3.5 feet from grade level because of risk. If we go above 4 feet, now we need handrail, even if there's stairs. Right, so all the other edges would need guardrail, handrail. I believe that's where we're at, right, sir? 4 foot? Yeah. So if we kept it at 3 foot and below, it would reduce a lot of risk from the city.
And it doesn't have to be 3 feet, obviously. If you guys want like just something like foot, 2 feet, I mean, it's still more than just having that, just barely above surface.
3 feet. For me, 3 feet is good. I was just worried if we were above 3 feet.
No, I think 3 feet would be
That'd be good with 2 feet.
fine. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just saying,
Just something.
get them up off the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily need definitive answers tonight, right? We have a few weeks where we're not needing answers just yet. So the onus of please provide us direction and answers tonight, I just want to take that pressure off. We wanted to make sure that we were clear, transparent with you of where we were at and where we're hoping to go. And you guys are steering this ship. So that's really what we're about on this presentation.
On the code side, I'd like to see you say 30 inches or less. That includes the need for guardrails.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I would say your complex design is way off the table for us. That's,
Expense line.
just to parents' wise, for a rustic
Oh, yeah,
park.
I know, I agree.
And then the only other comment that I have is there several places in your report where the word complaint got substituted for compliant. I'm a stickler for that.
Apologize.
No, not a problem.
Don't worry, I'll catch that on the grammar notes. They have a little purely for grammar.
She will skull drag us. I promise you.
So Dennis, are you saying something between the two designs here, the elaborate one and the less elaborate one?
Well, I like the simple design, but raised.
Raised?
Yeah, and I think given this is a rustic park, I look at the stage in Lacey at their square there, and it's beautiful, but look where it's at, with all the buildings and the landscaping. That's not what we have. So, something simple but functional.
That's what we were going for with providing you guys with those two designs, is so we could kind of figure out where we're at with what you guys want.
Yeah, but definitely the raised, I think, stage,
Yeah.
where the lighting stuff, that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just so everybody understands how this started, I actually approached them and asked them if they could do some design work for us, just so we have an idea of cost on different possible projects that we might want to have on the town. They agreed to start with the stage. I was thrilled with that. So just give us an idea of direction. I guess we can go
Yeah.
and see what we can do and maybe find some money someplace. Thank you so much.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Do you guys to sign it?
No, you're good. Thank you. You're on the agenda, so you don't have to sign.
Thank you. Thank you very well.
And I'll be contacting George directly about feedback so that
Okay.
they can move
Or
forward.
Tammy, one of us.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks
thanks.
so much.
So with that presentation, I assume that one of our topics at our retreat in September will be that. Is that correct?
Sure.
I mean, I think we need to have dialogue on that. Probably. So
And if we wanted or not, yeah.
be thinking about that, but may not quite be as soon as it's going to take some discussions, so we might as well put that on our dialogue for our September, the fourth Tuesday in September was our retreat. So I'll put that on the topic, one topic, and then as I'm talking about that right now, I'll remind you in August, but at least start thinking about any topics you want on our agenda like you usually do, and email me, and Tammy and I'll put together an agenda for the retreat. Okay? Oh, good staff. I guess we'll go to staff reports. Who wants to start first? You're by yourself over there now. Go ahead.
For July, there was only one call of note. It was the near miss fire over by the Dollar General. Gentleman lives off Binghamton, set off a mortar, ended up starting a fire, got within like 3 to 5 feet of the Dollar General. We did end up referring him for charges on that. Hopefully, lesson learned on that. That was on the 11th of July, so well past the allowable time for fireworks. Looks like we have everything in order for the Rainier Roundup parade. Sergeant Odegaard, who coordinates all of our parade and fairs and all that, does have all the traffic stuff and our community service unit lined up to assist with that, as well as the units that are going to participate in the parade itself. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions?
Has there been less of a presence by the sheriff's department here in town? I just haven't seen that many patrol cars here, but it could be just me.
I was going to say, I think part of it, George, is school's not in session, so we're not seeing the resource
Yeah,
officer
well, that's
around.
probably
Yeah,
true.
so with school coming back in session, like I mentioned, I believe back in either June or early July, we have the new school resource officer identified, and he'll be back in session here in September. I wouldn't say there's been a lack of presence. I'm still seeing lots of traffic stops within the city limits, probably by Kevin Burton-Crow. I don't know if you met him, but he's a traffic count. But we're still seeing a consistent number of calls for service, and case numbers are holding pretty consistent as well. So I think it is probably that day shift, school presence that's lacking, but that will be back in session here next month. So, but I will keep my finger on that pulse and make sure that they're up here. I like them out tonight.
I see them on a regular basis,
I
coming through the neighborhood all around
So
town.
it's probably just I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
it's just when school's in session, that guy's up and down the streets all day. I'm happy all the service.
Yeah, I'll stop sleeping during the day.
Wake up before noon.
Thank you.
No problem.
And thank you for, you're in my dialogue about keeping me in the loop. That text that you sent me on the 11th, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's nice to know that we got a fire in town before somebody calls me and says, did you know about it? Which happened. And I said, yeah, I was notified. So that keeps me out of trouble.
Me as well.
Yeah. So. Okay. Adam, you got anything besides maybe what you and I are going to talk about at the end?
Yeah, sure. The rapid flashing beacon at the Meyer Street crosswalk is still not installed. Mick, the contractor, has promised me that once it arrives, he will install it immediately. He will make time for it. So.
Tomorrow.
Oh.
He's doing it tomorrow.
He called you. Okay.
I emailed him.
Oh, good.
And I knew I was going to get hounded tonight. I said,
Yeah.
Mick, I need an answer. And he said he was actually going to do it yesterday, but he emailed me and said he's doing it tomorrow.
Okay.
Installing
Mm-hmm.
it? Wow.
So, also up there, every month I check with WashDOT on lowering the speed limit, and they were supposed to do it a while ago, I know, in May, and I continued to press them on that. They said traffic operations, they're still coordinating with maintenance on the installation of the new speed limit, so we'll see. He said hopefully soon. The water system plan continues to roll along. We got a new staff that's able to put a lot of work on that, so that's good. TIB applications, we've been diligently working on Center Street South chip seal and the Idaho Avenue and 2nd Street improvements. So those will be submitted this week. So we've been working with the city on getting those signed and then submitted. That's that's it.
Okay, thank you, Adam. If it helps when you deal with that Department of Transportation, just let them know that city staff, ladies in here, have been getting hit about the speed limit on that crosswalk. You know, we're getting, we got the crosswalk in, but now why is the speed limit? So
Yeah.
just anything you can do there, and it'd
Yeah.
be nice to get it before school starts, when kids are using that to cross at school time. But I'm just thinking, giving you some things to maybe hit them up on.
Yeah, I've given him updates on the crosswalk too, and whatever, when it happens. So I think I'm going to find another contact there. It's actually in the maintenance division and the traffic operations maybe. So
That'd be
Yeah.
great. I mean,
yeah,
I'm on that road 7-8 times a day, and there's kids use that
Yeah.
crosswalk.
yeah.
Okay, any questions for Adam?
Yeah, have you any contact with WashDOT about progress for replacing the street light or flashing light there by
You were doing that.
now Rainier Pizza? That
They
was
did
knocked
it.
down by the drum.
They did it. Yeah.
Yeah, WSDOT actually put the base in
I saw
already,
that, yeah.
but I don't have an exact, I think they're letting that base set so they can come, because those poles are extremely heavy.
Yeah.
But I would have, I haven't heard any more, but I'm thinking it's real soon that'll be coming.
Yeah.
They're building it as we speak, basically, as far as putting it together. I think they're just letting that base here.
Okay,
So
that makes
it
sense.
should be up soon, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. No.
So Tammy, did our contractor say he was also gonna put the pedestrian crossing signs up?
I did not talk to him about that. I asked him about the beacon lights. That's the only answer I have.
If you've got the beacon lights, and it's supposed to be pedestrian crossing signs also, correct?
I don't think those are on the plans. No. Are you saying crossing signs that flash before?
No. No, just the sign, the yellow sign that has the picture of people walking.
That's the state DOT puts those signs up. They own those signs.
Okay.
They would be the ones that would install state DOT.
And they know they need to put some in for a new crosswalk.
They won't put them in until the rapid flashing units are up.
Okay.
And that's what I understand anyway. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I'll talk to them about that as well. So, yeah.
That's that. But that's DOT that puts those up.
All right.
Yeah. One other thing, I've been trying to find funding for the the Center Street intersection, 507 and Center Street, where the storm failed under the road there. I tried to sell it at an angle to TIB, and they said no, it's in WashDOT right away. So they keep putting it back on WashDOT. I have an open conversation with WashDOT right now about covering it, but they're asking, is the storm fix? So they're trying to put the storm on the city. So I'm trying to push back against that, hoping that they'll just cover it eventually, just do the whole fix, because it is in there right away, and it drains from the highway as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ron Gibson.
Okay, I submitted a written report. I don't have a whole lot to add to this, actually, other than a little bit as far as I did attend a U.S. Department of Energy presentation in Tenino about solar powered grants. I should have a CD that says, but I have not received that yet. But I would like to let you know that it was a good presentation, but most of this is $50 to $500 million grants that are available, and there's a 5% match, and it's for big projects. There may be some exceptions, but what I got out of the presentation was there are no exceptions for the fact that you can't use any of that money that's available toward putting a grant application together. So you're gonna have to pay up front for a professional grant writer to put that thing together. I would recommend, if and when I do receive that CD, that each of you would just, check it out. It takes about an hour to look it over, and you can make your own decision. But to me, it looks like this is more like for huge solar projects, for like on big school districts and, big facilities. That's what I got out of it anyway. So, with that being said, I have that, and then also, we had a fairly substantial amount of vandalism on the inside of the park restroom down at Bukowski. Again, I found it yesterday morning. I have since locked that park restroom, and they're using the 2 porta pots down there. I can replace one toilet, and we can attempt to get it back up and running for the week of bluegrass and go that route. But they wrote all over the walls. I think it's kids, it looked like to me. But so the direction I'm looking at is we leave it locked until there's the week of the event or there's a specific event. And we'll bring in additional porta pots, and as will the bluegrasses they bring in theirs also. That's what I would recommend.
Any questions for Ron? Okay, thank you, Ron. Thank you. He did attend that meeting on the grant at my request for him to do. I was out of town, and we hear you council talk about trying to find grant money to do things, and this was one in our backyard. That you heard what Ron had to say about that. So, Ron, my question on we're only got one bathroom stall open anyway, right?
Yeah, the woman's side, or there used to be the woman's side, so we had 3 stalls in there that was available.
We only have one side open.
One side open, correct.
Okay, so are you for bluegrass? How much work costs are we going to have to do to get that one? I mean, I don't want it open if it's got graffiti written on the walls, and are we...
honestly, Mayor, I need to take another look. I was pretty torqued. I mean, I unplugged the thing, and they stomped on it 3 different times last week, and I dealt with it. And then Monday, I come in and I just walked it. I didn't really look all that great, but I will tell you that what I saw, I don't think you're talking a huge amount of time, but I'll bet you're talking 4-5 hours in there trying to get it back together where it's usable.
So at that point in time, is the vision that during bluegrass we have one bathroom that is unisex? Because that's the next thing.
That's what we're doing. The one side is unisex, all that one side.
So how much effort does the council want the city to put in to get that prepared just for bluegrass? George?
Well, no, I was going to say, what my plan was this year up there, or what our plan was to make that restroom just a woman's restroom, period. But the guys use a Santa can outside. If we have sufficient Santa cans, I'm good for whatever we want to do.
There's some of the...
You can reassess it. I mean, I trust you.
I mean,
the toilet's totally, toilet shattered.
So what do you got, one stall in there now, basically?
There's 3 stalls in there, but they pour, Pretty
sure so.
Leave it closed.
So I guess my question is, if we're only gonna fix it up just for bluegrass, which is our big thing, don't get me wrong, council, but if we're gonna spend time to fix it and get it opened up just for bluegrass and then shut it up again and then have new bathrooms installed next year, if it continues, how much of an extent do you want Ron to do, or should we just get nice porta potties for bluegrass?
I think we go with porta potties.
I mean, I know you can get nice ones. We had a wedding that we had porta potties at the wedding, and you can get nice nice clean porta potties, I know you can get them.
Yeah, my only concern is for the women. The guys don't really care anything, seriously. But we had a couple of them, but the women only, that were nice.
I actually have Shelley checking into getting some that have the hand washing stations. So, yeah, also. So,
And
for the bluegrass.
we had those at the wedding.
Which would be, I think, sufficient. I mean, I hate seeing dumping more time and more money into that thing when they're just, they're not destroying it.
So can you give us a woman's perspective of a porta potty? You're the only woman, you and Tammy, so you get which one you want to go first?
I'd rather go behind a tree than use either one of those bathrooms.
But I will
Well,
say,
yeah.
but I will say, the ones for the wedding were nice. I mean, they were.
And we got those local, the same place we got them. We got them from Blue Moon, right? The place out here in
Half Moon.
Half Moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather use a porta pot than that bathroom.
Yeah, I was just
I
gonna
agree.
say,
I agree.
I think that's a lost cause up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but I would also like to see a sign placed on those bathrooms that say closed permanently due to continued vandalism. So people know why, and maybe they'll start.
You put a sign on
I
them.
put a sign on yesterday that said closed due to vandalism, closed until further notice due to vandalism. So that they know that right now.
Okay,
But maybe we put if we're doing it for good, maybe we spend a little money and get a true sign. And I'm assuming you wrote a piece of paper.
No, I had that printed out and laminated.
Oh,
I
okay.
Stapled it up.
Oh, okay.
No, I
didn't go
didn't.
down the. Okay.
I'm a little more classy than that.
Oh, I thought you went down there. I thought you went down there right away. So I like your idea, Dennis.
Well, I think it's important to let the community know why, and that might generate some interest and observation.
But Ron, how many times has this happened now?
I don't have that many fingers and toes from what I've been down there tearing at the bars. I mean, a lot. And a lot of times it's something simple. You can just, there's stuff in the toilet. You can get it unplugged with a snake or whatever and get it back working again, and it doesn't take too long. Other times, I mean, I've rebuilt stalls. They completely destroyed toilets and sinks and different things. So
I bet we've replaced a dozen toilets and
yeah,
sinks.
a lot.
That
But keep in mind, it's
man.
not just us. I talked to other people. They've done the same thing in Tenino. They've done it, they do it. It happens. It's not just us. This is happening.
Okay, so we'll educate people that we'll not have bathrooms for the rest of the summer. We'll educate people, we'll get good Santa cans for bluegrass and start working on that. Okay, thank you, Ron. Dennis?
I really don't have a report because TRPC does not meet in August, but comments about the fire at the Dollar General store reminded me I was going to bring that up. We need to have our guy go over there and talk to whoever is really in charge. We have requirements that says you'll do landscaping and take care of things. They totally neglect, they put it in and they let the grass grow almost 2 feet tall before they mowed it. All of those trees that they planted are dead
They're now dead.
because they didn't water them or take care of them. So somebody needs to go over there and hit them in the head with a hammer and make them replace the dead stuff and take care of it like they should.
I can tell you that code enforcement has been on them, and they got the thing mowed, but they didn't get it all mowed. I totally agree with everything you do. All I can tell you is we've got a list of things that our code enforcement is supposed to be working on. One of them is a house that you all three can look at right now out the window that you're probably hearing contacts, as I've had 4 people contact me in the last week. He's on. That the letter's been written. Him and Bill, I think, are working on that one. So
think
there are things going, and Tammy, I know through me, and then Tammy contacting our code enforcement, there are some places that he's working on, and those two are at the top of our list right now. You want to add anything to that?
It's just a shame that they're so irresponsible, because they're doing it, steady business, you know, and I consider them an asset to the city, but they'd be more of an asset if they looked like
If they did.
Yeah.
Can we find them? Yeah, let's find them.
We're working on it.
Oh,
So we're working on that. You know,
Okay.
that's why we have a code enforcement officer, and you guys know the avenues. You send them the letter,
Yeah.
you give them the threat. You know, we had to deal with it with Murphy, and but you're not the first one that's mentioned that over there. And I think they should redo their landscaping because they just put it in to pacify us, and then it's over and done with.
Yeah.
You got it. So
So the only other thing I wanted to comment on is I attended the Thurston County Fair Sunday for the youth auction and sale, and there were several entrants from our city that won first prizes and best of show prizes, and it was nice to see, you know, these are kids.
yeah.
So that was good. So we have some people that are doing some stuff. And I commend the parents. That's an expensive, time-consuming project to support these kids.
Thank you, Dennis. Ron,
Nothing.
any questions for Ron? Thank you, Ron. Tom,
No.
any questions for Tom? Thank you, Tom. George.
senior center will be closed the last 2 weeks in August, vacations. And we're trying to have a pie baking contest at Bluegrass this year, so take some pies and bring them up. So, that's all I got.
Any questions for George? Thank you, George. Maureen?
No, but I have a question about the code enforcement. He hasn't been here for a few meetings. So when he's not here to give updates, can he like give something written for the package just so we're updated on what he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
We can work on that, yes?
Otherwise, I don't
What else you got? Vacation?
I think he only comes if he's needed. And so, unless there's a topic that he's necessary for, otherwise we have to pay him to be here.
yeah.
So.
Remember, he's on an interlocal agreement with Tenino, so he's got a separate hourly pay for when he's working. But yes, I think we need to see him again.
Or just have a written update on what he's working on. Because, you know, there's things I know I'm complaining about around the city that I don't know if he's been notified and if he's working on it.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Maureen?
Tammy, did you get a new pen or does it change color?
I did get a new pin, but I do have 2 of them.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, because you started red and now you're green.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Bill, you got anything besides what you're on the agenda for next?
Not really.
Okay. Any question for Bill? Thank you, Bill. I got 2 quick things. We're in the process of putting together another interlocal agreement with the city of Tenino they've put out $300,000 and bought a new street sweeper for themselves. So I've worked with their mayor and then Tammy and who are you working with? Jenny,
the clerk.
in their clerk, to use their street sweeper, and it's going to be at $160 an hour. If you remember right, the last couple of years you put money in the budget, and we've hired the group out of Lakewood. They charge us $175 an hour, plus we use 2 hours travel time, so we pay for 8 hours when they come down here, and we get 6 hours. They've done a good job, but I'd like to start using Tenino at $160 an hour, and hopefully we'll get 7 hours and 40 minutes of work on an 8-hour day. So they're in the midst of writing an interlocal agreement. It'll be very similar to what we have with our code enforcement officer. So if you guys are all in favor of that, then when their attorney gets it written to us, we will be ready to sign it. We'd like to get it done so we can get on the schedule and clean the streets before Bluegrass weekend.
We do have it. I put it in the packet.
You have a copy in the
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just had one question on that. I was wondering what the rationale is to go from $160 an hour to $360 an hour for emergencies.
I think that was a vac truck.
That's a back truck. If you have an emergency water main or something, you need to bring them in the middle of the night with a back truck. That's what that is.
They also bought a vac truck.
Yeah, yeah, that's what.
That was another big chunk of money.
Big chunk.
Yeah, so they got a street sweeper and a vac truck.
And this excuse me, this interlocal is for both of them if we decide to contract for the vac truck.
No, I think it's a good idea to stick close to home.
Yeah.
Plus, it's an expensive piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you for the thumbs up there. The second thing, or third thing, you started seeing them do some work on the chip seal project. You know, they started cleaning the cracks here last week. We're on the calendar for first week of September. Just so you know, and it could be before Bluegrass, but they're going to have to stage all their supplies, and they have to do it on the parking lot. They need a flat surface and they need it on gravel, so they're going to do it on the new parking lot closest to the city here, not the asphalt one, in that corner. When they leave, they will regrade that entire parking lot. As you know, there's some ruts in it now. They've assured us that they will leave that parking lot in better shape after they're totally done by regrading that front parking lot when they leave. But you may see them start bringing supplies in. They haven't given us an exact date of when they're there, but they may be there before Bluegrass because they need to be there when they start the chip seal. And the third thing was we got 2 applications for the open public works position. Neither one of them have the water qualifications that we put in there that we wanted. Neither one are strong candidates from what we look at in a piece of paper. So we are in the process of probably reposting that, and we're going to have to make some changes in what we're going to offer the rate price pay at. And just want to give you an update on that. Ron and what's your part? Paul and Will are doing a great job. You can't ask anything more of what they're doing. We're getting through the summer. I know that you guys are all being patient with what we've got done, and they're going to get this thing looking good for Bluegrass. But we're getting through it with the 3 of them, 2.5 of them, and that's where we are on the job description. But what we have right now, the 3 of us, it's not worth even doing anything right yet. So we're going to put our heads together, have Beth change the pay on that, and probably re-put it out there. That's what I got. Any questions for me on that? Okay, Tammy.
2 of the things were the beacon lights, so that's off there. Parade, this is the last time we'll meet before the parade, so please be there if possible. We're going to hand out the items that you have in front of you. Those are your gift for being here tonight, so don't get used to it. There won't be a gift every council meeting. But once again, my husband will have our side-by-side, so if there's somebody that doesn't want to walk the parade route, we can haul you or bring a golf cart, whatever you want to do. And I haven't picked an announcer yet. I was wondering if anybody had any brilliant ideas. I've been trying to get Todd Stansel to do it, and he is busy. He was busy last year, and this year they're going to have babies around that time, so he didn't want to commit. So I don't know. You know, I've had Gary Edwards in the past. We've had Charmaine. Joey said Charmaine doesn't want to do it if she doesn't have to. So
George Sharp done it?
George Sharp did it with Charmaine last year. So I was just kind of trying to think of somebody that had a good, strong speaking voice and entertaining too. Like, that's why Todd, I think, would be so awesome. But I know that's a lot of pressure right now. Maybe if something comes to mind, shoot me a text or email or something and let me know.
Who?
Oh, I could ask Mark. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who is that in here?
Mark Mounts, teacher at Rainier Middle School.
Last council, we talked about the fact that the sign at the end of town was hit. And so Doug looked at it. He thought Tony could come and push it back, and Tony tried to do that and without success. So at this point, it's just like it was, and I think it looks fine to the eye. To replace it, I mean, to repair it, it would have to be replaced. There's no repair. And so a replacement would be probably a lot more dollars than we want to spend, and then our signs wouldn't match. And so, so I think we're kind of leaning towards just leaving it. It's fine. You can't tell it was hit from, when you're driving. So we're kind of in limbo with that as far as that goes. Any thoughts on that? Everybody's okay with how it looks? Yeah? Okay.
Did you end up getting anything insurance on that?
Well, I have insurance information. If we decide to replace it, we get a bid and send to the insurance, and then I guess they decide to approve it or not approve it. But it
wouldn't hurt to get the bid, just to send to them the backup.
Well, the way that that's working is I send a bid, they send me money. So if I get the money, then I gotta replace the sign. So, yeah, I mean, Ron was down there with me when we talked to Tony and Doug, and it's not gonna fall over. It's completely sound.
It's structurally sound. It's embedded on I-beam down in the ground and concrete. It's not gonna go anywhere.
Couldn't be on that driver hit it from the other side.
Yeah, yeah, right? He probably doesn't want to do that again. So Ron, or I think somebody went down there and cleaned up the debris that was down there, and so that's kind of what we thought too. Then they would at least be matching, and that's all I had.
Can we bill the insurance company for what it costs us for manpower and labor to go clean up the mess that was made when they hit it?
Probably, I guess, if we want to go through that. I mean, I don't know.
I'll talk to you about it.
Okay.
And add a little, some minor repairs, paint, whatever. We shouldn't just blow it off.
Okay. That's all I
Any
had.
more? Thank you, Tammy. Any questions for Tammy? Okay, Bill, you got this accessory dwelling information.
Yeah. Legislature was very busy this year. This is, as you know, homelessness is a big thing. By the way, the term homeless is a euphemism that got coined back in the 1980s to take care of vagrants and bums and homeless and what have you, which doesn't sound very good. And of course, the problem with homelessness is that the vast majority of them are homeless because they're drunk or they're junkies or they're crazy and they won't take the medication and get help. So, but at any rate, to address homelessness, the legislature decided that every city in the state should permit accessory dwelling units. And they passed a statute that requires us to do that, I think, when we update our next comprehensive plan, which according to MRSC is 2025. And that may or may not be accurate, I don't know. So the regulations they have for accessory dwelling units would usually allow one or two, either attached or detached. I think they're permitted basically no setbacks or anything like that. We do permit accessory dwelling units, probably not to their rules. I haven't figured it out yet. So if we want to permit accessory dwelling units, we don't have to because nothing's served by public sewer in Rainier, where you can just avoid them completely. But if you want to continue to allow them, we probably have to redo things, and I kind of got a list, 4 different ways we can go. And if you want to talk about that, or look at it and how you feel about it, if you want to keep it, it's probably a good idea to have it. And the reason I say that is because we have a lot of large lots around here where you could easily put an accessory dwelling. And that's a lot cheaper to get a building permit than it is to subdivide your property and do the same thing. So it's just one of those things that if you want to think about it, we have plenty of time to think about it. There were other things that they did that we don't have to do because for cities over 10,000, and that's still Hunt's Point, Arrow Point. Don't have to do it. So, questions?
So if I wanted to build a 3,500 square foot accessory dwelling, I'd be able to do it?
Well, I don't know what our rules are right now.
Okay.
You probably.
No, you can't.
Well, no, I hope that's the case, but
800 some odd square feet is, I think, what the code said last time I read it.
up to, I think.
800 some odd square feet.
I don't recall the details.
I approved a few of them.
Yeah.
And we'll get a fourplex over there on two, so ready to go.
This one says 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, that could be good.
Did we put this on the retreat list?
Yep, so that's a retreat.
Probably a good thing to talk about. You want to think about it.
Actually,
But
you could put it
I think accessory dwelling units are probably a good idea, but if you want to look at the details, I put the statute in there and you can look through that. Because if we're going to allow them, we probably should comply with whatever they want us to do. Now, of course, since, we don't have a public sewer, obviously they got to get a health permit too, to build another house. Or expand one.
So what do you do if it's this recreational park trailer? How do you?
Pardon?
The recreational park trailer, what do you do with that? Look at it just to.
Well, you can tow it off to the dump station if you want, or you can hook it up to the sewer. So Barbara Bear's place has been there for, I don't know, how long, 30 years, 40.
Putting up a new dwelling that would have to tie into a septic because we don't have sewer.
Right.
I think they would be very hard to put a dwelling in.
Yeah, well, they'd have to get a permit.
Well, potentially could, large lots up there, will allow a separate septic system to still be able to put a dwelling in.
Okay. Okay, so we'll put that. We got 2 things on the agenda for the retreat. Any other questions for Bill? Okay, thank you, Bill. Okay, last thing, I gave you a handout or something just so you could look at. I know at the last meeting there was discussion about the complex. I've been brought in the loop from Adam, Ron Gibson, and Tammy, city staff. I just kind of want to put stuff here so it's in front of you as I kind of give you what city staff would like to do. Our estimated engineer was $332. The low bid was $425. We also had a $439. The other 2 bids were extremely high, but I put that there so you could just see what we're talking about. So basically, we were overbid 98 to 100, anywhere from 98,000 to 107,000. And at 2 meetings ago, we decided we were going to open up and rebid it this fall. Then there was some discussion at last meeting about maybe we should make some alterations to the plan to try to save money. Staff is not in favor of that at this point in time. I think Adam shared at that last meeting that there potentially, if you make some alterations, there is going to be costs on the engineering part to make changes. Is that true?
Correct.
So, there are some possible ways that the city is looking at to maybe cover that overage. I'm working with Thurston County. There's no guarantees here, but I'm working with Thurston County at the present time and the commissioners to see if we could get some additional money. I'm explaining to them what we have gone through since 21 changes have occurred, and we're catching them before they go into 24 budget, which is the last time we approached them was the same time they went into their budgets in the fall, and they allocated year 2020 out of their 21 budget. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we could come up with some. I'm not trying to hit up a lot of money, but seeing if we could get additional money there. There's a recreational maintenance grant right now that Adam has come across, and that's what Adam and I were meeting with today, and then you saw us meeting before the meeting. There's a new grant that G&O thinks that we may be able to get the basketball resurfacing, which was about $20,000 of the budget. The lights for the basketball court, which is about another $25,000. And possibly the fencing portion of the basketball court. We're thinking maybe $50,000 to $60,000 in this grant. We think we have a good chance of getting it. It's like a $5 million grant.
Correct.
And it's anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000. So it's going to be split out to a lot of people. Adam and I went through the scoring criteria before the meeting tonight. We think that we could have a good chance of getting that. So that would be some money that would potentially help offset a high bid again. And the third thing is what we planned on 2 meetings ago was hopefully we'll get a lower bid because somebody's looking for work to start 2024 out. So I guess we're hoping that we just stay where we're intact right now and move on with the project. This recreational maintenance grant, we would know by October 31st. The award date, I mean, we're starting this the 15th of August. Adam's got a meeting.
Yeah, we'll know more details then.
So we would know something here before we'd even go to bid again. I would hope that I would know anything from Thurston County before we went to bid. We had talked about going to bid in November or December. I'm sure we would know on the grant by then, and if we got anything more from Thurston County. So that's kind of where the city staff is leaning. Second area, there was discussion about the tennis court. Whoever brought that up, the council members, I would totally agree with you. Things have changed since we did this design in 21. Pickleball has taken off. You go watch it anywhere. On the cruise that we were on, the pickleball courts were full 24 hours a day. Adam said he drove by the park in Olympia, and I think everybody agrees that wherever you go, you see pickleballs. Tammy said the same thing. You're out and about. You go by any of those sport courts in?
Yeah, pickleball's huge.
Okay. And if you watch the news, it's big. So staff would be supportive of dropping the tennis ball court and putting 2 pickleball courts into the design. Okay. It may save us a little bit of money. You saw that I just crossed out the $30,000 when I talked to Adam this morning on the phone. We thought 20. Adam thought 20 to 30. When he came in tonight, he did a little bit of research today, and he thought, Bob, we need to get rid of the 30. He said if we could get it to 20, potentially. There's a little bit less concrete, a little bit less fencing, but you're going to have another little, it's hard to say, but I'm just putting that there for me to have notes to talk to you about that. We may be able to save a little bit money, but we're not 100% sure. There would be some extra engineering. Adam gave me an idea today, but he wants to run it by a couple hierarchies in his office. So we'd like to have until next meeting where he thinks he could tell us what additional engineering costs would be, and then we could make a decision at that point in time. Are we willing to pay the extra engineering and go with 4 pickleball courts rather than the tennis court? You want to add anything to that?
Why do we need 4 pickleball courts?
because it sounded like two council members, I think, did not think we should have a tennis court. I think city staff would all agree that tennis court, we need to bake that, but if we're going to do this magnitude of a project, it makes no sense to just drop the tennis court and think it's going to save us a lot of money to get us under budget. From all the work that they've already done there, it wouldn't make sense to just drop the tennis court and think that we're going to cut the project a lot. You want to add to that? Is that correct, what we talked about?
Yeah, that's correct. If there are any thoughts of expanding this in the future too, you're going to get the best deal right now if you do the whole project for pickleball courts.
That's kind of where we're at right now. But
If it was a separate future project, well, it's going to cost more. You have to mobilize construction out there, and so there's a lot more that goes into it again. If there are any other ideas about besides 2 more pickleball courts, open to hearing that.
And I guess, Dennis, I would be thinking that if we go to bid, and if the bid's high, and A, B, and C on my top proposal, we don't get any money from Thurston County, and we don't get any money from the grant, and we're just 0 for 3, and we can't afford it, then we drop the tennis court or the pickleball court and see what the low contractor would do if we did a add and drop at that point in time.
And what do you mean by drop?
Well, if we could,
Not do pickleball courts?
if we could not afford the 4 pickleball design, that we drop the 2 pickleball courts, or right now it's an existing tennis court, which was something you guys talked about at the last meeting. I mean, that would be our last option, would be to cut it in half.
Well, my question still is, why do we think we need 4 pickleball courts?
Well, my opinion is that we're growing as a community. More and more people are using the park down there. You always see people down there. And if it, I think it probably would get used. You know, most of the other areas, I think, have more than 2 pickleball courts, and they're all full. And to go back and add 2 more at a future date, it's going to cost a lot more money.
Well, I don't particularly agree with what you say. Those other areas, because I've passed by Shetland and just to this project, have a much bigger population base than we have. So I don't know if we need to go with 4. I would be really happy with 2, no tennis court, and I don't understand why it's going to cost us so much more money to shrink a project and do it than to go with what we got. That just doesn't make sense to me, that all of a sudden engineering is going to cost so much more money because we're shrinking something. It should simplify stuff, not make it more complicated.
So the cost isn't with the engineering, and it doesn't make the cost bigger. It could possibly save money, but it's not something that you could count on. You don't know how the bids are going to come in. I can't predict the future. Where you would save money is materials and labor. So you're shortening up the tennis court and actually widening it some to match the size of 2 pickleball courts. So you're saving money on the subgrade, you're saving money on the surfacing, the asphalt, and a little bit of fence, but then you have to add a half fence between the 2 pickleball courts. So it's mostly materials and some labor that you have the potential to save on.
Well, then the other question I also have is surfacing. I just don't understand why we have to spend an exorbitant amount of money to get that specialized surfacing. Why we can't just paint the courts, as has been done for many, many decades, and when it wears, repaint it again. You can do that several times before we ever reach the cost to do that specialized coating one.
You want to address that, because you're the one that got the prices on that?
No, that was Beth. I don't have an answer. I've never been on a pickleball court, so I don't know.
Weren't you talking about the resurfacing of the basketball court?
No.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Well, you're talking about you've got to draw lines on the pickleball courts, but you don't have to use that specialized surfacing. You can just paint.
I don't know if that's in the design or not. I have no idea what the design is of pickleball courts,
It's
especially
acrylic surfacing.
Which is very expensive.
It's more expensive. I think, in a life cycle analysis, it's just as much as paint or possibly less because it's more durable, it's longer lasting. The surface can be cleaned more easily probably without, I look at the basketball court right now and how long has it been painted for? 3 years, I think.
7.
Oh, it's 5.
It was put in 2017.
Oh, okay.
Then we're talking about having to resurface that.
Well, I think repaint it, correct?
The option was given to paint it or surface it with acrylic surfacing, and don't have those numbers, but I think the painting was 12,000 maybe. The acrylic surfacing is 20,000, and so the lifespan that you get out of the acrylic surfacing makes it worth it.
I don't know if we're talking about having to redo it now. It's only been done 5 years. That's not a terrific lifespan.
Well, I don't think the initial product was the acrylic that you're
No,
speaking
it was
of.
just painted.
It's just paint.
It was
Yeah.
painted originally.
Okay?
It wasn't a acrylic. It was just painted. It's not what he's talking about doing now. It's a lot more money.
I think Dennis's question to you, though, Adam, is why is our engineering going to be big if we're essentially just shrinking a project? Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, big how?
Well, we keep saying that it doesn't make sense to shrink the project because the engineering's going to be so much more for you to design that without the tennis court.
So Bob and I haven't discussed the number officially, but it's not that big. It's maybe 5,000, and that includes rework of the plans, hours for the CAD designer to go in and alter the plans, revision of the specifications, and then there's the whole bidding process. You have to rebid it. There's a lot of office work in that, and you have to take in all the bids, you have to tabulate them, you have to call their references, and this takes several hours. So the engineering isn't a big cost here. I don't see it as so.
Okay. I think we understood it was going to be a bigger cost than that.
I just think, yeah, well, no decision is going to be made tonight, but I think that we need to let this play out. We can always still cut the project. If we rebid it again and it is high numbers, we can cut something. But I think, I would like to see us let this play out, see if we can get some grant money, see if I can get Thurston County to kick in some more, and, maybe all once we have the whole project covered. And if we
Well, let it play out as what? As a tennis court and pickleball courts? Or are we firmly deciding tennis court is gone?
that I guess we could make a decision on.
I think we
My recommendation was that we go for pickleball courts. We still keep the same design that we've got pretty much. And we can still, if that comes over budget, we can cut it in half. But I don't think we should cut it in half right now and just remove the tennis court and rebid it and come in at $350,000, and now we have $400,000 sitting there.
Well, my point is, if we're gonna have to pay additional engineering costs to redesign it with 4 pickleball courts and no tennis court. And then we'd say, oh, we can't get that, now we're gonna come back and cut it back to 2 pickleball courts and no tennis court, and then pay engineering fees again. That just doesn't make sense to me.
But they're
We
gonna,
should make
correct me
a
if I'm
decision.
wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. If we cut the tennis court, you're gonna have engineering fees.
You're gonna have engineering fees, so you have to redesign the plans, all of the dimensions. So there's a few plan sheets I can go over with you to show you what will actually change on the plan sheets. Then a CAD designer has to go in through AutoCAD and alter all of this, and it's time consuming. I will have to go into the cost estimate. I'll calculate new quantities of subgrade, of surfacing all this and fencing, and so the cost
I
will
don't mean to
change.
interrupt you, I think everybody understands that. My point is, if we're gonna go with the 4 pickleball courts and then we find out it's too expensive and now we're gonna shrink it back to 2, then we're doing the same thing twice. Why?
Well, we're with that. Like I was saying, I would reassess the cost, so we'd have a new engineer's estimate. I'd have to go in and work these numbers. I don't want to put a number out there, but yeah, we're thinking maybe you could save 20,000. We'd see, and then we can't promise what the bids will come in at. I can't predict that. So in the best case scenario, yeah, we'd be looking at some cost savings, and it would the engineering costs would be small. So you subtract that for whatever you save, from whatever you save from the materials and labor of the actual project.
Other council members, you got anything to input? We'll just go around since everybody has something to say. Go on.
Okay, I say since we approved tennis courts and pickleball courts in the first place, now you all said you didn't want, somebody said you didn't want tennis courts, so now we've just replaced tennis courts with pickleball. I say we just stick with what we have and see what the cost is gonna be. I don't know now why we're trying to alter the whole project from what everybody originally agreed on. We're just replacing pickleball with when you guys didn't want tennis.
So, let me clarify what you're saying. The original plan was 2 pickleball courts and a tennis court.
Correct.
Okay. And we want to get rid of the tennis court. That's pretty much it. That makes the consensus.
Well, was it a consensus? Okay.
City staff would be fine with getting rid of the tennis court and adding 2
Now,
pickleball courts.
that's not what Maureen said. That's changing.
No. What I said is we originally agreed on pickleball and tennis, but some of the council felt like we didn't need tennis courts.
Yeah.
So we still have the area where the tennis courts were gonna be, and since people don't want tennis, we're now saying, okay, we'll put another set of pickleball in that area.
Why? Why not just go with the 2? If you're
Because
not-
we've already agreed on usable space that we want to use that for. So since some people don't want tennis courts, now we're saying we'll turn those into pickleball courts. And I don't want to say age, I don't want to, but demographically, I have had more people say to me, this is awesome that we're getting pickleball courts. And I mean, younger families and stuff. So just from what I'm hearing in the community, I feel like the pickleball courts will be used.
George?
I agree. I think 4 pickleball courts.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm with pickleball courts. I was kind of under the impression, or thought process too, that we had basketball and 2 pickleball courts.
Ron?
I'd kind of like to know a little bit more about if you can come up with the funds. If you can come up with the funds you're talking about at a high percentage, and I say 4 pickleball courts. If you can't, and the bid comes in super high, then we have to redo this whole thing again.
Okay. Which just goes back to where I started this whole thing, is I just wanted to have some time that we can not bail on the whole project and see if we can get some funding, go with the idea that we're going to rebid in December, but hopefully find some more information.
Well, especially the funding, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
great we don't have
It's all
enough
based
funding.
on that every month.
Yeah,
That's
and
funding.
I agree with that, but I think we need some firm guidance. If we don't want a tennis ball court, then let's move to delete that from our plan and stick with it.
Okay, but I just,
Basketball.
I
Let's
just,
go with one, let's
I-
go
whoa,
with one
whoa,
pickleball
whoa,
court
whoa,
and save
whoa.
even more money.
I just kind of got, okay, just a sec. I just kind of did a straw poll, and I got at least 3 council members that said they were supportive of going to 4 pickleball courts. And I got a 4th council member that says he's kind of in favor of it, but still wants to make sure we can hit the funding. So I think, Dennis, if you may disagree, but I think we have enough a poll here that the consensus is 4 pickleball courts at the present time and get rid of the tennis
I'm
court.
not against 4 pickleball
Okay.
courts. But what I'm trying to get across is if we're not gonna do tennis courts, then let's officially get that out of the picture so we can concentrate on the basketball and the pickleball courts instead of having that kind of fluttering there in the background.
Well, that's great too. I think that's exactly all I was asking is that we have another month that G&O could get to us maybe a more satisfied bill cost of what it's going to do to change it from a tennis court to a pickleball court. It won't be. That's what that second part of my sheet of paper said. I thought I made that clear. So that's kind of where we're at. Before we make that decision, I think we need to have at our next meeting, Adam's going to have a better figure of what it would cost to change it to 2 pickleballs rather than a tennis court. Are we okay with that?
Well, we're kind of semantics. I disagree with the change from tennis to 2 pick. Let's just say delete tennis period and go with 4 pickleball courts in addition to refurbing or whatever for the basketball. And make that.
Are we okay with that?
Isn't that what you just proposed?
I thought so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, I thought we all agree on.
So I
You
hear
understand
that.
where we're at? Okay.
I think
We'll
Yeah.
get the figures.
I think we're all agreeing on the same thing. What Dennis was saying is why we're going to pay engineering to change it once and then pay engineering to change it twice, which we don't know that yet until we have a better understanding of what that number is. Is it going to be cost effective for us to venture into changing it to 4? And then we can do so at the time. But I think we all agree that tennis is out of the picture. It's either going to be 4 or it's going to be 2.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, just say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion adjourned at 6:31.